And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Also, welcome to those tuning in on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Glad you all could join us as well. For those of you tuning in on Amazon, we do welcome you guys to the program. Our guest that we're talking with today is celebrating his brand new book that you guys see in the carousel. That will either be in this corner or down below. The book is called Improbable MD. I have my Kindle edition right there. From the bayou to the boardroom. We're going to talk to Dr. Derek J. Robinson about his book, what it's been like from the share his story, his journey, as well as how he hopes it's able to inspire all of you. You guys can be able to click on the book, be able to enjoy it as we're having our conversation, and we'll let you guys know how to stay connected with Dr. Robinson as well. But Dr. Robinson, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
So exciting times for you right now, celebrating, first of all, the release of the book, but also, I think, sharing what is possible. So I want to talk to you about that. What has that been like for you to be able to remind other people through your story what's possible for them?
I'm sorry, I had a connection issue there, I think, and I missed your question. Can you
No problem. No problem. No, I was just saying, what has it been like for you to be able to share your story and to show other people what's possible for them?
Yeah, it's been a inspiring and a very reflective process.
Mhm.
Writing the book, something I had dreamed of doing for a while, but never had really thought about, all the mechanical steps to actually getting it done. And so I was really driven to do this. I think a combination of factors. One, I've got a rich background in mentoring, both at the high school level and at the collegiate level. So I really believe in giving back and the power of inspiring others to realize their greatest potential. And I have these really discrete memories and my background of when I saw individuals who inspired me and gave me a different lens through which I could see the future. But the catalyzing event, I think, to write the book really was just living and supporting folks through the pandemic and the need to really reach out to folks and really provide kind of a shining light for what the future could be like. And I think it's important for leaders to share their stories, because I think often folks are inspired, but they may feel that the accomplishments that they may want to pursue might be out of reach. And so what I hope to do is to really just share some of the elements of my journey so that folks can see that, there are a lot of commonalities there. And not that my path will be the path that others will take, but I think there's certainly some lessons that can be gleaned from that journey that can really help folks as they're trying to make decisions along the way in terms of pursuing their dreams, encountering challenges, how do they overcome those challenges? And then get some just context and perspective as well. So I'm very hopeful that this book will have its intended outcome for the readers. And again, it was my delight to go on this journey, and certainly appreciative of all the support that I received from my family and friends in that process.
Yeah. I want to say hello to Tina Siemens, who's joining us on Facebook. Tina says, congratulations, Dr. Robinson, on your book. Hello to you, Don, who is responsible for this conversation today. She's joining us on the Amazon side. Hello to you, Don. Thank you so much for the follow. It was interesting for me because my first connection to you, Dr. Robinson, was through reading the book. So before today, you and I had a conversation. But what I thought was really interesting was the role of your upbringing that it played in your life, what you saw, but also your idea of the failings that a lot of people see when it comes to the medical profession, and unfortunately how some people don't get the care they need, and wanting to be someone who could be of service. Do you think it was just a part of who you were to be able to want to find some way that you could help others?
Yeah, I think there was always a desire to be in a role that could help individuals be healthier.
Hmm.
And to be honest, that dream was like, hey, I do want to be a doctor, but there was a big gap between having that dream in the back of your head and being able to articulate it with your tongue with confidence. And but there certainly were some things along the way that I saw in my own family, both immediate family and broader family, that were kind of instructive and helped me understand a bit about healthcare and health. And honestly, even as I think back at my own upbringing and the fact that my mother always had a really good paying job and had health insurance, there were things that I was able to observe over time that I noticed were different in terms of, my ability to go to the doctor and to go to the dentist and go to an orthodontist, and not have some of the barriers that I knew that some of my cousins and other family members experienced. And then certainly as things got more significant in terms of my exposure, to family members in the hospital, dealing with confronting death, for the first time of individuals that I was very close to, really kind of imprinted upon me the importance of ensuring that we don't forget all the different walks of life that individuals come from, and the fact that they all value their health. And so for me, that permeates not only the work that I've done in healthcare, but even just in interfacing with people. When I see the janitor that comes to service the restrooms on the floor that I work on, I know that individual's name, and I see, relatives in that individual. So there's a certain level of respect, and I understand some of the vulnerability that folks experience as they try to navigate the healthcare system. So I think definitely the upbringing and exposure, I think for all of us contributes to making up who we are, the lens through which we see life and opportunities. And certainly as we build relationships with others, it helps us expand that view and be able to look further ahead.
And you did have some barriers, though, Dr. Robinson, that you talk about in the book. And one thing that you were very clear about in the book, Improbable MD, was that you weren't going to allow some things to stop you. One of those being racism and discrimination. And what I thought was so interesting was that as you kind of talked about that, you even went back even in the book and talking about one thing that stood out to you growing up was the baptisms and your relationship with water. And so I want to talk about that for a second, because I think a lot of times some of our audience may find different barriers that come up. Some of them may be totally out of their control, but others, that they may just, encounter in life, and they do stop them. What do you think that helped you not to allow barriers that came up your way? What is it do you think helped you not to let those things stop you?
I attribute a lot of that to the village, right? I mean, just a lot of folks around me, both in my community and schools and family, that were generally always encouraging. I think I even talk about walking into the barbershop and just how folks would just kind of speak into your potential and expectations. And so I think the environment that our young people find themselves in, especially in those younger developmental years, is very, very important in really helping build up their strength and stamina to encounter and overcome fears and challenges that they have. And if folks don't get that at an early age, everything is not for naught. I mean, there's still an opportunity to show folks the way, but I think it really requires us to all step forward and be encouraging to individuals, share our stories.
Yeah, and I think that is the big thing. So in talking about sharing your story, living this is one thing, but did you always know that a book was going to be part of this when it comes to telling
No,
your story?
no, no.
Yeah.
The answer is no. This was really, I think this was really something that I really kind of anchored on during the pandemic as something that I not only wanted to do, but was going to do. But I think along the way, it wasn't hey, in 6 months and 2 days or 3 years, this specific time frame, I'm going to do A, B, and C. But I'm really excited and happy that I was able to do it.
I'm going to get into the family aspect, Dr. Robinson, that you share in the book. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I see you guys over there on YouTube. Please put your name in, guys. I don't see the names over there on YouTube that are speaking, so please feel free to put your names in a comment. But you all are watching Cyrus Represents primarily here on Amazon Live, but we are streaming on Facebook as well as on YouTube. We have our guest today, Dr. Derek J. Robinson. We're talking with him about his new book. You guys can see it there in front of me, but I also have it here on my Kindle device as well. It's called Improbable MD. You guys can see it there. But those on the Amazon side, you'll notice it's in print as well as a paperback, the Kindle edition. We have the paperback highlighted for you guys right now. It is $17.99, or you guys can get the Kindle edition there. You'll notice it there for $14.99. And as I mentioned earlier, we will let you guys know how to stay connected with Dr. Robinson as well. You were very open and honest about family and marriage and becoming a father, Dr. Robinson. What was that like for you to reflect on? Your journey into fatherhood, becoming a father yourself. What was that like for you to reflect on and to share?
Yeah, I look at it from a couple of different angles. One, I talk about it from growing up, both the background of my parents and their family and our family structure, um, how that impacted me in terms of my thinking. And even as an adult, you look back and there are always lessons that you can learn from everyone's example. And so certainly, I think there are many positive things that I learned and had a very loving environment growing up. And then certainly, becoming a parent is certainly a journey. It's different. It's transformative. There are a lot of responsibilities and obligations that come along with that. And like many parents, we try to pour everything that we can into our children to, build them up and help them, become productive members of society. We want them to have, critical thinking skills. We also want them to understand their history and be able to have their own perspective on things. And so it's for me and for my wife is, we've tried to be very diligent and careful in that process. But kids have questions and they come to you with those questions, sometimes with things that you don't expect or you don't think they're actually aware of. And certainly this environment, I think that we've all lived through more acutely here in the last 2 to 3 years, where we've not only had the pandemic and the major disparities that we've seen in Black and Brown and Indigenous communities, but also what's been magnified in terms of some of the social injustice, George Floyd, and just the many issues that we've seen with regard to law enforcement engagement with Black and Brown communities. It's really created some challenges for parents in terms of having those challenging conversations with your young people and the timing of it, and are you ready to have the conversation? And so I'll talk about kind of being compelled to have a very candid but careful conversation with my 2 young Black boys at a very early age about some issues that maybe I had hoped to have with them a little bit later, but the circumstances, demanded that conversation happen at that time. And so certainly that was sobering, but I gave it the best shot that I had, and parenting is an evolving journey.
You actually say in the book, and we have a question from Don on the Amazon side, but I want to go to something you actually said in the book when it comes to this experience for you. You said this, Dr. Robinson: thinking back to my life before kids, it was certainly a good one. My focus was on my career, my large and sprawling family, my broader community, and my own needs. Those needs included companionship, which led me to my marrying Sean, who is a wonderful wife, mother, and partner. So distant now the memories of our spontaneous date nights, quick trips out of town, our heart-stopping adventures like our safari in South Africa, where we found ourselves 20 yards from a pride of sleeping lions. Yet neither freedom nor fun trumped the many rewards and joys of fatherhood itself. My transition to being a dad brought me a sense of conservatism and risk aversion, along with persistent concern about the long-term consequences of the decisions Sean and I make for our boys. I want to talk about that because as you were kind of contemplating, the role that you were going to have and the impact and imprint on your children, when people get to this point in the book, Dr. Robinson, what do you hope they're thinking about their own impact on their loved ones and the community around them?
At that point, I'm hopeful that that they not only see the importance of contributing to the community and the welfare of others, but also that we have to be honest about our responsibilities to our children as well. And even though I was, I think, very engaged in the community and working with mentoring programs like the Capital Leadership Institute Chicago and the Achievement Academy and others, I had to be honest about the trust that had been given to me to be a father of 2 young boys and what that would require. And so, I had to pull back on some of the things that I liked to do and was doing before to ensure that I was where I needed to be and was doing what I was supposed to with them and had the time and flexibility to do it. And certainly, as kids get older and mature and their interests change, it creates opportunities to maybe get back into some of those things, but it's not just for other people's kids, it's your kids and others. And so when I think about my involvement in swimming and being an official on the deck at a swimming pool where, frequently I may be the only black or one of two black or brown officials officiating a swim meet, I'm there not only because I'm love the sport and was brought up in the sport, but because I have children that are there, and so they get to have their dad involved. But then other kids have a chance to see me there, and that can serve as a inspiring opportunity for them as well.
Yeah. Don has a question that deals more on the educational side. I'm going to get to that, but before I ask Don's question, you do talk about what it was like for you being a part of the college experience. Of course, being able to choose a fraternity, being able to decide what you wanted to do. Uh, Don's question was this: I mean, what was it that made you decide on Howard Medical School? What was it that led you in that direction?
That's a great question. The honest answer is Howard decided on me.
Mhm.
So Xavier University of Louisiana, extraordinary institution. Um, for decades, it's had a great record in terms of helping get African Americans accepted into health professional schools, including medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, podiatry, and the list goes on and on. And I was a very active college student, loved my experience there at Xavier. When it was a time to apply for medical school, I'll admit that I had not done the best job that I could have done in preparing for the medical college admissions test, or the MCAT. So my score was fairly low, although the rest of my credentials I think were very good. So
Mhm.
I applied to many medical schools that I talk about in the book. But the one allopathic medical school that said yes to me was Howard University, and so I was grateful for that, and in so many different ways. I will tell you, many of my peers had multiple schools to choose from. So it depends on context, right? So you're at a school where a lot of people are going down this journey together and have a lot of options. So then you may feel that, well, hey, I only had one option, so maybe I wasn't as sufficient or as good as others. Get outside of that environment, others will have a very different journey and perspective. And even going through medical school, met some outstanding individuals who applied to medical school multiple times, rejected multiple times, waited years to get in, and they were qualified all along, and are extraordinary physicians today. So I'm very grateful for the experience that I had at Howard University. It was a place where I met physicians who were of all specialties, who were involved both in clinical side and academic side, and a leadership side outside of the organization. And so I didn't graduate from medical school with the sense that there was anything that I could not do,
Mhm.
because I saw people who shared my background and experience who were doing it all. And not everyone has that experience. And so I look back on those experiences with a lot of gratitude.
Yeah. I love that you talk about not feeling limited. But there is a chapter though in the book, Dr. Robinson, where and it's an interesting conversation because I've had this with other doctors on the program,
Mhm.
where even with all they've been able to do, thinking about their own mortality, but also their own limitations. You have a chapter you talk about when being a doctor is not enough, and dealing with a loved one that is, in a situation that people may feel helpless, and people can definitely relate to. Talk to us about that balance. I mean, you've been able to achieve so much. You even talk about early on in the book about knowing what it's like to know that all patients don't make it, right? So what has that been like for you to be able to experience your success, but also recognizing the things that are sometimes out of your control?
Yeah, I think the timing of this experience may vary by physician. I think for me, it was as I was moving through the early years of my experience as an attending physician, where I began to have those kind of major exposures to family members that or close friends that were sick, and I was truly in what I would call the passenger seat. As a doctor, and especially as an emergency medicine doctor, you're used to being in the driver's seat. Someone comes in, they got and you make things happen, and you call people when they're when they don't want to be called, it's a Friday night, a weekend,
Mhm.
middle of the night, you need someone to come in, you make those calls, but you do what's necessary. But when you're not in that position and you're in the passenger seat, it's different. It's different managing the relationships with family members and respecting boundaries. So understanding kind of when to get in and when to get out, or what it feels like to be asked out of a situation that you weren't asked into. And so figuring out what that balance is like. And then how to interface with the healthcare delivery system that you know well, that you expect to function in a certain way. And then when it doesn't, you know, how do you remediate that, if possible? And there are differences in what you can do when you're dealing with a system that you have very close access to, like if it's at your hospital versus in a neighboring state or 1,500 miles away. And so how you communicate with people and try to make an impression upon them and follow up. I learned a lot. And I think some of the earlier experiences I had when I looked back with some regret, wondering if I should have done something different, if I should have pushed harder, if I should have acted in a different way, changed how I handled things and what I trusted but verified going forward when I experienced similar situations, trying to be an advocate for others while they were experiencing healthcare.
Yeah. Dr. Clara Peters is joining us on the Facebook side. She says, congratulations to you, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Tamika, hello to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Facebook side as well. She says, congratulations. Another question from Dawn here has to do with education, but also with others as well, Dr. Robinson. And her question is, what advice for young Black men considering college? Do you have anything you want to say to them for advice?
Yeah, I would say college can be a wonderful experience. I would certainly encourage individuals to pursue that route. I know that college may not be for everybody. And so I think you have to give some thought to what are some of the things that you want to do. I think one of the biggest barriers that um, Black and brown students, and especially Black men, face as they encounter college, one is the cost. And so that can be a barrier to even getting the folks in your family to be encouraging of it, because folks are trying to figure out how do they manage that. um, I think further upstream from that, as we think about parenting and as we think about young people, it's important that they are getting access to the type of classes that are needed for them to be successful in college. So ensuring that they're able to get, enriched classes if possible, or even some advanced placement classes, just so that they're challenged themselves. So when they land on a college campus, they're ready to go. College campuses can be very different. There are some campuses where, you land on campus and the people that you are in class with have been in very expensive, prep schools and have traveled the world. And sometimes that can make our young people feel very out of place and inadequate. There are other institutions where you find folks that, maybe share your experience, or the institution itself is very prepared to service the needs of students who come to college with different experiences. So some may come needing some catching up, in that first, 6 months or first year, and they're there and they're ready to help them do that. There are others that expect you to hit the ground running on time, and others that expect you to be way ahead. So understanding the type of institutions that you're applying to, going to visit those institutions, talking to individuals who are on those campuses and folks who are from your community that have gone, I think can be very, very helpful. And the last thing I would say is, we all can get advice, but you want to be sure that you're getting good advice. And it can find people who are there, have gone down that path, that can be very helpful. Now, that doesn't mean that people who haven't gone that say, hey, college education is a good thing for you. It's still good advice.
Yeah.
But you may hear some folks that say, hey, it's not worth it. Don't do it. It's really expensive. You need to be able to kind of balance the feedback that you're getting.
Gotcha. Well, it's a powerful journey that you've been able to have, an inspiring one, Dr. Robinson. So glad that now you put it in a book for other people to be able to read it and to be able to, I think, be inspired by it. Again, it's called Improbable MD. You guys can see it there. The subtitle is From the Bayou to the Boardroom by Dr. Derek J. Robinson. Again, it's available in paperback as well, the Kindle edition here on Amazon. So you guys can be able to get it there for yourself And Dr. Robinson, how can our audience stay connected with you?
Yeah, I would love to stay connected with the audience. I do have a website. It's www.drDerekRobinson.com. So Dr. Derek, spelled Derek, Robinson, Robinson.com. Feel free to go on the website. I've got a little bit more information about myself. There are also some photos and videos, and I can also be followed on Twitter. My Twitter handle is the same as my website, so it's at Dr. Derek Robinson. And I also have a Facebook link that you can click on, as well as LinkedIn that are on my website. So definitely go check it out. Follow me on Twitter. Love to stay connected with you and learn more about, what you think about the book and how it's inspired you, and hopefully, your thoughts about sharing it with others in your communities.
Right. Well, Dr. Robinson, really enjoyed chatting with you. So glad to have you on, and looking forward to our next conversation together.
Absolutely.
And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I also want to thank you guys for tuning in on YouTube as well as on Facebook. For you guys, a replay will be available for you guys after we go off the air there. Also, make sure you guys do follow us over there on the Amazon Live side. Of course, the replay will be available for you guys there too. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.